I just did a little DJ spin move with the volume when it hit that swell point.
Oh.
Yeah.
I missed it.
You'll hear it when you listen to the recorded version.
Nice.
Hello and welcome to the Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
I am Steve Jones.
All right, Steve. So, how you doing?
Yeah, a little tired today.
Tired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything kind of hurts.
Because of the running.
Yeah.
I think that's a toxic sort of thing that you've started up on you.
And I love it.
You should drink more beer.
I should.
Run less miles.
I might have to figure out how to go beer-free in the next few weeks for the lead
Yeah.
up to the marathon. I've been told
Hey, man.
it's a big deal.
You got to do what you got to do.
Don't think they have any beer here, though.
They may. There's a lot of Busch NA beer. We were making fun of the other Moon Underwater for
And here I'm talking
drinking
about not
near beer.
drinking.
Yeah.
I know.
But hey, I know how you feel. Yeah, it's like, usually I'm like, oh, good, this is an excuse to have a couple of beers. But sometimes I'm like, I don't actually want to have a couple of beers now, but you got to do what you got to do. This is a job.
It's work.
You know? Yeah.
I mean,
And usually I recover from that pretty quickly.
yeah.
So,
And we started with a beer before because there were some people at our table.
yeah,
so
we decided to wait
sipped a little.
the people out
Yeah.
rather than take an inferior table.
Yeah, this is our
But
table.
yeah,
People
how
don't
about I
realize.
introduce our topic today, and then maybe we could do a little interlude
Yeah.
because I did want to ask you a couple of questions. But just so people know what's going on, you're the audio guy, Audible. You listen to most of the written works.
Yep.
On Audible of some sort, you have a lot of retention. You can talk about it. You do your work. I do the reading part.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of stories. I was just thinking about that. The difference between the different modes of consuming literature, let's say.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of stories that I had heard first before I read. And I heard them on a podcast called the Paris Review podcast.
Yeah.
Paris Review is one of the most venerable and famous.
Give them a ding.
Totally.
Yeah.
They get a ding. They were, back when Hemingway was around, they were a literary magazine, I think. Somebody might fact check me on that. But they've been around for many, many generations. And as famous as you get in that world. And they threw some money at a podcast that is... It's got some serious audio engineering stuff going on. There's like all kinds of like noises and sound effects and all that stuff. And they read a couple of stories, which I like both stories, but I ended up liking the audio version. Theirs better than the written.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to just come to this with that.
So my confession is that I had no idea how this came up. I vaguely recall talking to you about this when we were putting a bike together.
Yeah.
And then last week you're like, here you go. Here are the podcasts you should listen to. I'm like,
what?
I don't remember. I was like, I guess.
It's all that running is messing with your...
No, you said I have good recall on it, and then I had no recall.
No,
I have no recollection if we talked about this last week or not.
You have recollection of the stuff that you prepare for, but
Yes.
yeah. No, I know. That's all right. So anyway, that is what we're going to talk about. But before we get into these two short stories, I guess I'll just name them right now. They'll probably be in the title. But it is the first one in order of the episodes. It's episode 4 and episode 7 of season 1 of the Paris Review podcast. The first one is A Dark and Winding Road by Ottessa Moshfegh.
I thought that was in season 1, episode 7. So
that's
okay.
probably right.
All right.
You're probably right now that I think about it. The other one is season 4.
Philly.
The Worm in Philly by Sam Lipsyte.
Yep.
I hope I said that right.
Yep.
And read by the great Marc Maron, who is you don't know who that is, but he's a genuinely very famous comedian. So they had an actual celebrity reader for that. And the author reads Ottessa Moshfegh's story. And they're both in the Dennis Johnson,
Very
Hunter
much
S.
so.
Thompson, debauched, a lot of drugs. And we'll get more into that, into the stories later. But before that, and since I'm thinking about technology and all that stuff, I have two kind of questions for you. Genuinely just curious. One, in a sort of ridiculously dark irony of our podcast, I'm the tech guy of the podcast.
That's true.
And
I know.
You do some of the stuff, but I'm
so broke I'm like burned out on things.
You don't have to worry about it, but I was doing it before you came along, so it's but I'm just kind of trying to keep ahead of things. So I started it on a company called Anchor.
Yep.
Which is a great, they just had a wonderful product. It was a startup. They were offering for free a better product than all these other companies were making you pay to do.
Sure.
So it was easy to decide that's the one. But what happens to a really good startup that's getting a lot of buzz? What happens?
They get bought.
They got bought, and they got bought by Spotify.
Right.
So the biggest company bought the tiny one and so they have been. So you do data migration? Is that what it's called?
Yes, I do.
Something like that. You seem embarrassed or sad about that, or
it's one of those like
you just don't want to think about work, right?
I mean, yeah. It's because it's tomorrow. I'm getting the Sunday scaries right now. I think it's what they call that. I know.
Sorry to bring that up.
That's all right.
But anyway, they are changing, and I've had to kind of come up with a whole new login thing, and then the dashboard just was completely different. And sometimes I log in and I swear I'm on a different sort of like place.
Yeah,
than
you're
others.
In a different universe somehow.
It's just weird, and it's kind of confusing. I have no idea what the password or anything. I log in through Google, like just because
Mine won't log in. We tried setting it up; it still doesn't work. And I think it's because it's in this limbo right now between Anchor and Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah, and so. And I think our RSS feed number or address might have even changed. Okay. No, I don't think that would have happened. Anyway, it's just weird things are happening, but I just uploaded 2 episodes this week or last week, whatever. And it was super buggy for the first time in all the episodes I've done. It took multiple times to upload the things, just kept getting fail. I would go through the whole process of writing in all the text, and then it would erase when I hit the next screen, and I'd have to start over.
I hate that.
So I got it, but I'm wondering if you have any insights on what's happening, or just that when the small, great company becomes the big, mega company that needs to be monetized, everything just gets crappier.
Everything gets worse. Yeah, I've been through a few of these where you're working for the small kind of boutique thing, and the big corporate overlords take over. And I kind of work for one of those now. We make far more in revenue now, but our profitability is lower. But we're likely more profitable dollar-wise. But it's a different game than we used to play.
Yeah.
So, what they're trying to do is roll everything into basically, if you consider Anchor a platform and Spotify a platform, when you roll into Spotify, for a while they're maintaining Anchor.
Yeah.
It's the same UI. That gets expensive. That's not how you scale up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, all right, little by little they're going to move you over, and eventually it's like, okay, everything's actually now being stored in Spotify and on whatever platforms they have, and that's largely the way that. And
so stuff just gets buggy in the process because okay,
and it'll get better. I mean, Spotify's got to be a pretty decent platform, I think. Otherwise,
I would think so.
A lot of.
Do you think they're just going to start asking us for money at some point, or?
I was thinking we were going to start asking them for money at some point.
Yes, well, I would.
Yeah. So that's the opposite of what I was expecting, really. So maybe I guess they might want a piece of our action here. I can see them doing that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, they should give us
a couple
money.
$100,000 a year is what they want.
They should probably. That's a little bit of what we make, and so we could afford it.
A couple months.
Yeah, but
exactly.
I'd rather not.
Right, with all of our ads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, so that's my take anyway.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The second tech question, and my knowledge of this is just the show Silicon Valley. I noticed on a social media I've been a little addicted to social media lately, like
Me
just
too.
scrolling in a way I don't like at all.
Yeah. I was off Facebook for like 2 years. Just didn't use it.
Yeah.
You brought me back.
Yeah.
It's because of this.
Facebook is pretty easy for me because I don't spend much time on it. I get bored with it pretty quickly because it doesn't have the algorithmically boosted material like the short videos.
Where are you getting that?
Instagram.
Well, it is Facebook in the end.
It
right?
is. Yeah, I bought another small company that was bought, or not that Instagram was that small, but.
Right.
So anyway, there's a social media platform that I've been kind of just scrolling mindlessly, and right after, without diving into the politics of it or choosing sides or whatever, but right after the debate between Harris and Trump.
Who?
Harris and Trump, all of a sudden this platform that had like 4 different subject matters that would come through it, all of a sudden was just nailed with like just tons and tons of talking, like pro-Trump talking points about why, and like conspiracy theories of how, like, you know, she had like a sort of a magical like earpiece that somebody was feeding her all the answers, but it was, and a lot of things like that, but also just pro-Trump talking points that most of which are totally ridiculous.
So wait a minute. In the process of this going on with the debate and them saying all of her answers were terrible, they also are going with, and also those answers were fed to her by someone else.
And this magical earpiece was also making him say really stupid things.
Yeah. It can't be both. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I didn't need to get into that, but my own thought was, okay, if you're in a debate mode, the last thing you want is some jackass like yammering in your ear while you're trying to answer, because she would have to pause and listen, then repeat. I just don't think that is an actual benefit to have some, especially when
there's a tech question here somewhere, but I have so many other things I want to say because I think it's impossible. Like it's a skill that like interpreters have to really work on.
Oh yeah,
is being able to listen and speak at the same time. I agree.
Well, and also, it's like, how could she have been so good at those answers? And she's like, oh, she must have known the answers, the questions ahead of time. Of course she knew the questions ahead of time. Everybody in the world knew that they were going to ask about immigration. They were going to ask about the economy. They're going to ask about inflation. They're going to ask about abortion. Yeah. And so a debater preps on all those things. A master debater. Exactly.
Yes.
So anyway, I don't need to try to... So there's a bunch of those. And also some kind of weird Christian... I say weird Christian because it's like debating atheists on like the questions that you can't answer. Like, well, if the Big Bang started everything, what was there before? I'm like, oh, well, it's a fun question to talk about when you're taking bong rips in your dorm, but nobody has the answer.
It is appropriate for today's readings too, taking bong rips.
That's true. Yeah. But anyway, all of these sites just showed up, and then I looked at a couple, and they have no... Yeah. They have no profile picture. They have 25 followers. They all say virtually the exact same thing. And it's funny because they get like 200 comments, and I looked at the comments, and they're all like, blah, 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 you fucking moron, and blah, 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 like, and showing, and then posting, like debunking the conspiracy theories with links and stuff. Yeah. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure all you people are yelling at a bot.
Yes.
Here's my question to you. Do you think it's a bot? They're just bots? Are they Russian kind of troll farm?
I think it's a troll farm.
Or do you think the campaign might have just hired a firm in India to just make hundreds or thousands of accounts and just start flooding?
It's a foreign thing. I think it's foreign attempted interference. I would guess a troll farm somewhere. I'm not going to say necessarily Russia, but anywhere.
China.
Anywhere.
Iran.
Places, yeah. I mean, you could have people hiring, but a lot of it is, like, if it looks like there's relatively meaningful content, sort of, right? Like, not.
Well, and they follow up sometimes, and, like, kind of like a human would follow up, but then again, AI can do that. But also sometimes there'll be 25 comments, and you look at the comments, they're all by the poster, and it's just this.
They're stirring the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
So just some foreign actor has got a troll farm, and they're just hit send.
I don't think they have their. I am of the mind that they don't have their skin in the game for anybody in particular, except for chaos. That would be my take.
My take is that, and we're veering into foreign policy near, but I think Vladimir Putin has a lot of investment in Trump.
You think?
Oh, Trump lets him just have Ukraine. Like he's said if you watch the debate, he totally is fine with Russia invading Ukraine. And what's stopping them is Western and American weapons. Those will stop the moment Trump becomes president. And so why would Vladimir Putin be equal on that?
I have an amazing confession. I didn't watch a replay, a clip, or even any. Isn't that amazing? I love it. I felt great.
Yeah, I
couldn't do it.
I didn't watch it either. I heard it. I heard it from the other room, though.
We're talking politics now. This is bad.
Yeah, it is. I don't know that we haven't really gotten deep into it. So
I'll say on the record, I don't like either one of them. So that's my problem. Anyway.
See, that was the thing that I didn't want. I didn't want any endorsements.
I don't like either one of them. Oh, none. No. There will be no endorsements. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, with that out of the way,
I guess. No, I feel like you've made you kind of outed yourself, and but I didn't. So
I'm I don't remember who it is now. The Libertarian candidate. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So
all right, there we go. Write them in.
Yep. All right. Well, let's have the most. If we had commercials, we're doing this commercial free for you people. Right now is when we would have a commercial. But should we talk about A Dark and Winding Road?
Yeah, let's do it.
That feels like it's politically related because it feels like this season's election. Dark and
Winding Road.
It really does.
That was a very clever segue. They're called segues.
It's true.
And I also just wanted to. I listened to the whole podcast episode just because I was on a treadmill when I was listening to it, and it was easier than. But I also just want to talk about the production value. I don't think there's another podcast that's quite like this one. It's a little bit like Radio Lab. I guess I can
not us
ding that. No, we're not like that. We're just to talk, talk, sort of wing it.
People are impressed with our ding. Probably.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, this is like they've got a team, and there's all kinds of noise. And they also, the Paris Review has archives of
I think the Dark
audio.
Side of the Moon Underwater has decent production value.
They do, but it's very simple and it's always the same.
Right. This is
more
different.
like each episode is an art project.
It feels more like a 30s radio sort of. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So anyway, and it starts off, I think this episode, maybe I'm confusing it with the other one, but it starts off with an interview with a guy named George Plimpton, who's a legendary editor. He was an editor for the Paris Review way back in the day, but he interviewed Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah.
And they were asking him he said, oh, yeah, I remember once I asked him, everything was going great, but then I asked him, like, I've just noticed in his writing, every time he has a sex scene, there's, like, birds are always, there's always, like, a white bird, like, flies by, or a flock of birds, or the birds are chirping, and I just thought, what's up with this bird? So he asked him, and Hemingway just got immediately really angry and said, well, I suppose you could do better.
Pretty great.
And the guy's like, no, I couldn't. I was just curious.
Yeah,
so
just wanted to
Hemingway, a little thin-skinned, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So, but here's the story. I don't know. You want to start with it?
Road? Yeah, let's. I thought it was a really powerful first paragraph. It is read by the author. And if you can remind me of the author's name, that would be wonderful.
Ottessa Moshfegh. So she, a real literary character, I guess. Her first book of short stories this came from. And they're all like this. It's this kind of wealthier than average, highly educated person who's a total mess and is really, really profoundly unlikable.
So I had
You liked the guy. You thought
no.
that's what,
I had
yeah.
I had a major. It was like a realization about 2/3 of the way through this thing.
Yeah.
When it started, she's reading it. I'm assuming that it's I'm hearing it's read by the author. I'm not like really taking it all in. I'm thinking that it is a woman who has gone to this cabin, who is pregnant, and who is there to like, talking about the bougie food and the wine. And I'm like, but she's pregnant. And then later, I find out that the main character's name is Charlie, and it's a man.
Yeah. Well, that's because the author is a woman, and she read it, and so it was a woman's voice.
I'm already canceled, so I'm allowed to be a chauvinist on the fact that I thought that I didn't.
No, that in creative writing, anytime a character, a student writes a story with a first-person narrator, and then the sex of the narrator ends up being different from the sex of the author.
Yeah.
It's always a shock for most readers.
Okay.
Because you don't know, and this is just a basic fact. It's not chauvinist or it's not, kind of prejudicial. It's readers assign on a first-person piece of fiction.
Yeah.
Unless the reader has a real strong clue one way or another, they are going to assign the sex of the author to the sex of the narrator, because that's just what we do.
So is that intentional here?
Maybe. I felt like it didn't take that long for me to realize it was a guy.
Okay.
And maybe I was just... this also was published quite a while ago. Nowadays, there's the word pregnant person and all that. You know anything about that?
No.
You don't want to know.
I don't.
It's identity politics all around trans movement and all that, and assuming that a person that's pregnant is a woman is a kind of a hate crime. But this was written before that, and I think she would have just assumed that most readers would think that if there's a character talking about their wife, I'm going to say their wife instead of his or her wife, they would just assume it was a guy, because that's most people are, and things have changed since then.
Does come up.
Yeah.
That there's the wife.
The wife comes up right off the bat in the first paragraph.
That's what
And it goes, my wife is about to have pregnant. She thinks I just thought it was really funny right off the bat. And it goes...
Really?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
This is you laughing in the theater, though, when everybody else didn't get it at Mad Max, and then afterwards I'm like, he nailed it. It was funny.
Oh, it was intentionally funny, too.
Yeah.
I feel like most people don't have a very refined taste. Let me just put it that way.
Nice. So you're bougie like this character.
I am.
Yeah.
I in some ways relate to him.
Charles was very bougie.
Charles was bougie. He started off with cornichons. I don't even know how to say that. But
Toblerone chocolate and
smoked trout.
Yeah.
And
as one does.
And cured olives.
Yeah.
Those were his favorite food.
And he was mad about the bottle of wine that he had because he didn't have an opener, and it was some fancy French wine.
And that his college roommate gave him.
Yeah.
And it was special to him. Wait, let me talk to you what is funny about about the first paragraph. It goes, my wife was 8 months pregnant, and I guess she felt the right to treat me terribly.
Nice.
I just thought that was funny. Like,
it's a little selfish.
That somebody would just say that about their 8 month pregnant wife. And then but the paragraph ends with, I wanted to have some time to myself before the baby came, and my life as I knew it was ruined.
I got it written down.
Now, I thought that was a comic note, and
I took it as really dark.
It is dark, but it's darkly comic.
Okay.
But the thing is, the book, from beginning to end, is funny.
Okay.
And it's always funny in this tone. It's just really...
I thought they really meant it, and I still think they do. But maybe...
What do you mean they?
Well, Charlie.
Charles.
He.
You can say he.
I'm going Charlie.
He's a male.
Are we sure?
Yes. I'm just gonna go to the mat on this one.
Okay. Charlie could be a woman's name too.
It isn't. It's a
I'm
male.
just saying. Well, it's Charles, but I'm going with Charlie then.
Charles is a male.
Yeah.
And especially when we get to the end, I think his maleness. Okay, his brother calls him a faggot.
Yes.
All the time.
Oh, boy, trigger warning.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're already canceled. It doesn't matter.
If you're traumatized, then do we have a phone number that we could have them call? Dial 911.
Yeah. The brother that at first I thought it was a twin brother, but it wasn't.
No, 3 years younger.
3 years younger, and the brother's a deadbeat.
MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. They're very different. My particular favorite line reading about MJ, that he had big red boils of pus he'd squish while mindlessly in front of the television.
Yep.
Because he didn't care how he looked, didn't care about any of that. And where we are, I'm gonna back up. Where we are is a cabin that was built by the narrators and so Charles and MJ's parents from some kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a kit. It was built in the 70s.
One window. I liked the description.
Yeah, it's not, and he drives up there. It's not really that rustic or nice, and it's like dusty and
I like
dirty.
to say rustical.
Rustical.
Yeah.
He shows up. He brings the wine. He said, "I'm not outdoorsy," and that's an understatement.
Yeah.
He manages to build a fire in the wood fire.
So maybe I identified a little bit because I am not outdoorsy at all.
I think we're both a lot closer to Charles than we are to MJ. Which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. Except
MJ,
that they're both pretty fucked up, but one of them's willing to accept it.
Yeah, I suppose that's right.
Yeah.
So it's a sibling story. It's about two brothers. One of them is super bougie and who, right from the start, went to private school, got good grades,
played rugby.
I like that they wore a suit to high school every day, that kind of guy.
Yeah. But I think he had to because it was the fancy
private school. And then he goes to college, and he becomes a real estate lawyer.
And he has a brother who has friends, according to him, that live in actual trailer parks.
Yeah. Here's how he said, it's unfair to say that I'm a snob and he's trash, but it isn't far from the truth.
Right. Totally.
And
he's owning the snob.
Oh, yeah, he is. And so he gets there, and he's not very well prepared, and he's leaving his wife by herself. And
right, as one does.
To kind of like punish her.
Yeah.
And then he smokes pot and
drinks a lot.
He drinks some scotch that he finds, some old scotch, and he it's not a very fun little vacation that he has created for himself.
I mean, having to brush aside the mouse poop on the
mouse poop, and then so when Chewie Chekhov's gun makes an appearance in this story, and it is a Band-Aid colored dildo.
It is, and
he finds that in the bed somewhere.
What else does he do to it when he finds it?
Sniffs it.
He does.
Because naturally, the first thing I did was sniff. Because it smelled a little bit like plastic, but otherwise anonymous.
Yeah.
And so he sniffs it, and then he kind of smokes some pot, and he's said that, I don't know why I did that.
Pot always makes him crazy.
He gets paranoid and existential, but it doesn't. He's
existential,
okay.
Questions, yeah.
And so he doesn't, and then he goes to a convenience store, buy some beer, and buy some Whoppers from Burger King, and comes back. But he forgot to get a corkscrew.
Right.
And he's there, and he's drinking some more beer, and he's smoking some more pot. But this time, it is making him paranoid, and he starts...
got beer and a pound of Twizzlers.
A pound of Twizzlers, yeah. He's not, outfitting himself all that well. And it's all by himself, this whole time, and then we learn about his brother, that they don't have a good relationship, and we learn about his brother's girlfriend that comes over. Carrie Mary. And he uses the R word.
He does.
He says I suspected she was retarded.
Right.
And then he asks her if he's taking advantage of a mentally ill.
He says, no, of course not. And then
he throws the log of goat cheese on the floor and then stomps on it and tracks it all through the house.
I love that.
And he and then that night, the narrator, Charles, hears them making love or having sex, and he's like, I'd never heard anybody grunting like that.
He said fucking.
Yeah,
but yes.
He did. And he said that he couldn't
There's
look
no
him in the
8-year-old
eye.
sitting around us today.
Yeah, he
so.
couldn't look him in the eye for a week. But he's also, the brother MJ is physically talented, as he says. He's a high school dropout, but he works in a factory, and he does all kinds of drugs. And but he like picks him up and twirls him around, and is always roughhousing Charles.
Right.
So anyway, then he starts going into this like deep despair when he smokes pot.
Yes.
And he starts thinking about his unborn. He has a vision of his unborn son, like at his grave.
Do you know anybody like that, by the way? That like they get high and they get real like, oh my God, this is you. Oh really? Allegedly, Your Honor.
I don't partake in that buzz, not because
not
I'm
anymore.
Not. I just get into my own head too much, and it's not fun for me at all. And I have had some fun times, but mostly I get paranoid. And
I had a relatively good freak out moment when I was in college, high, and there was an ad for a Volvo on TV where they showed it crashing, and in my head I could not like get the noise of an actual car accident out of my head, and I'm like, man, I don't like this.
I had some good time, like watching TV is fun on pot because it just all of a sudden seems better. I remember watching. This is like 9th grade when I first discovered pot.
Yeah.
I know, that's not good. But it was the summer before 10th grade, which was high school where I
That makes
lived.
it okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was the summer that MTV debuted.
Oh.
And we would just watch MTV.
And the music would change and you'd,
Well, there was only like a few videos. They would play them over and over.
Yeah.
But also my friend had HBO, I think. But we watched Smokey and the Bandit once.
Oh, yeah.
I was like crying by the end. It was so profoundly
amazing,
touching.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
And then I watched it later, and
it wasn't.
I think maybe the pot had something to do with.
Really?
Oh yeah, it made it seem like every joke landed. Yes. Yeah. I'm detecting a little bit of sarcasm
it's good
from the other side of the table.
Thick. But it
is a pretty funny movie though. But just the fact that these. The trucker and the bandit are going against the corrupt
I know
sheriff
exactly what
and
you're
all
talking
that,
about.
And you don't.
Never seen it.
Oh, you've heard of it, right?
Of course.
Burt Reynolds
and it's
with
a
a
car
mustache.
movie too.
Oh yeah, Trans Am, man.
Yeah.
Everybody had to have that Trans Am after that. It's pretty funny.
With the
Jackie Gleason's in it. He's the sheriff. He's awesome. There's this one scene. It may not. Maybe it was Smokey and the Bandit 2, but I think it was one. He's got his son with him, who's just a dope. And they're going through like they're going through Florida, and there's like an alligator walking by, and the son goes, "Look at that big old ugly gator, Daddy," and goes, "That reminds me, I gotta give your mama a call."
Had to be.
And Jackie Gleason just delivering that
Nails
line perfect, like kind of hiking up his pants as he says it, and like he's great.
Give your mama a call. Okay, all right.
So anyway,
should I? Okay.
Yeah.
Does it hold up? And should I go back and watch it now, if I've never seen it?
Suppose if you like looking at a Trans Am, you
I'm
might
not a big
like
Trans
it.
Am guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I like cars.
You might like it.
Yeah.
Got the music.
I just sound like such a simpleton. I like cars.
I like cars. Hey, I don't know.
Doesn't matter. I do love
It's
them.
not a great movie, but I think it's fun in its way.
Is it good enough?
I think it's good enough.
All right.
I think it's good enough. Definitely goes over the 50% mark.
You recommend getting really stoned and watching it?
I think it would make it better for sure. It's an easy way to. So anyway, we're
we're getting away from what happens.
So
when Michelle shows up.
he smokes pot, and then he's thinking about his son.
Yeah,
looking at his grave,
and his
then
horrible grandchildren with their ugly faces,
bitchy faces.
Bitchy faces.
It's like I picture their bitchy faces as they fail to recognize how great I am, or something.
That he hates his unborn grandchildren.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's funny. He's so terrible. But then it gets really...
I feel like I missed out then.
But it gets really,
really,
really, really grim, whereas these, like... He said he's thinking about hanging himself from a belt from the rafters, and all of a sudden
but he doesn't.
He doesn't do it. No.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So he's got the. Anyway, and then all this is going on, and
the door.
Somebody
there's a
knocks
knock
at the door. Yeah. And it is somebody named a young woman who's looking for MJ.
Right. Her name is Michelle. It's spelled with an X.
Because her parents are European.
Yeah, something like that. He's like,
no, that's exactly it.
No, but he's like, they're European or something, basically. Like, I don't know.
I think the line is, her name was Michelle, but somehow is spelled with an X because, as she put it, her parents were European.
I love that. I actually wrote Mixel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she shows up she's looking for MJ because they smoke crystal together.
Yeah.
That's their thing. So then we learn about MJ and the narrator's childhood together.
Yeah.
And should we do that or the whole how the narrator decides to how Charles decides to deal with Michelle? First.
Well, he starts to. Yeah, let's do that.
So he enters the door, and he's going through this pot paranoia trip.
Right.
And he's been crawling around on the floor and growling and barking.
Yeah.
And thinking about hanging himself. And then then he answers it, and he's shirtless.
Yes.
And then he puts his hands over his belly, and she's like. He says she was nice enough not to look at my nipples or something.
My nipples and my belly.
In my belly,
yeah.
And she asked about MJ, and she she asked if she could come in. I think at one point she goes to walk in, and he thinks she wants to go in for a hug,
and
he opens his arms, and
I'm putting my arms up right now for the hug, and
she just kind of stops. And
she does not want to hug.
No,
no.
So he invites her in, and she immediately looks over and sees the dildo, and she goes, "You a fag?"
Yeah, she did.
And
he's been hanging out with
and
MJ,
he goes, "No," and he's offended.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, he's offended. But then he changes his mind. He decides to trick her, and he goes, "No, I'm a homosexual."
Right. Yes. He did.
And then he starts pretending kind of little by little that he and MJ are lovers.
Yes.
And he's there's that part where he sits there and she gives him a cigarette and he's smoking.
What kind of friends?
He's like
very special.
Good friends.
Good friends.
Yeah, very good friends.
Yeah.
And she, but he said he started smoking as faggily as he could.
Yeah.
By sucking the cigarette in with his cheeks kind of pulling in and then bouncing his leg on and then pulling his hand away after and you could see it perfectly. Yeah. And he's just totally happy with himself that he's fooling her to this degree. And then while this is going on, we hear about his past.
Well, I want to jump in really quick before we get there because he asked her if she wants the other Whopper. And
she says no.
She says no because...
no, he says he's a vegetarian.
She says that first. And
no, he's the vegetarian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He goes, I'm a vegetarian, but MJ likes this kind of food. He's like a child.
But she declined.
She does. She goes, no thanks.
She said no thanks, and then he says...
He goes, yeah, it did kind of sound like she might, but I've read it too.
Okay.
And he goes, I'm a vegetarian myself.
Right.
But MJ,
Even though he just devoured
he
one
just
of
ate
these.
one.
Yeah.
I just got this for MJ.
Right.
He just likes to play and play and play.
Yeah.
And so what did you take about the flashback where we learn about MJ and him as children?
So we have an interruption of what's going on here to a flashback where it talks about Charles and MJ breaking into vacant homes.
Yeah.
One of which has a really full, good-looking refrigerator, apparently.
Yeah.
Which that was a little...
What I think it's rich people who go away for the summer.
Okay.
But also, that... Or maybe it just didn't make sense.
I went away for the summer. What are you saying?
You didn't have... but you're rich?
No. No, actually, we had a bunch of shit that was still in the refrigerator. When I got home, I was like, I thought we threw all this stuff out.
Are you sure you didn't eat a
poison piece of blueberry pie?
So
I'm not.
Charles collects pockets full of poisonous berries
That's
that
true.
he's told. He actually mentions the berries in the first paragraph, I think.
Does. Yeah.
He says that back in the old days of yore or whatever, when you wouldn't.
He said of yore.
Yeah, you wouldn't talk. People didn't talk much. Just
right.
There's a storm coming, and which berries not to eat.
Exactly.
Just the essentials.
Just the essentials.
And
I think we're gonna need to.
I think we should get another one.
I think we're gonna. Need
I
another
think
one.
it's that kind of day. It's a
It
Sunday.
is.
You're getting the
all
sun.
day.
You gotta.
Can we get another one? Thank you.
Look at that.
Look at that ordering without.
By
even
the way,
stopping.
I showed part of our video that the one that took place in the Vine. I showed it to just a clip for my fiction writing class.
They loved it
because they laughed as soon as they saw me and you and just our.
Wait! As soon as they saw us, what are they? What are
they
you
just
saying?
thought it was funny because there was that weird picture thing at the Vine that was that strange picture.
The Vine.
Yeah, the
There it is.
good old Vine Tavern.
Yeah.
But I had him read work, and so I thought I'd just show him a clip, and then I fast-forwarded to the point where those people brought us. I'm like, watch this part. And then the shots just appeared.
That was Brock. That was the manager.
No. He brought the Jell-O shots.
Oh.
Remember those guys at the bar sent two shots over to us. They were like apple.
We were not.
Teenies.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much alcohol.
It was moonshine. It was moonshine, apple pie moonshine.
There was not much alcohol in that, though. It was just, it tasted like candy.
Or our tolerances were too high at the time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the students kind of like let off a gasp, and a couple of them clapped when we got the shots. So, yeah, making friends.
Here's to you, students.
There you go. Here's to the students.
Yep. Okay, so
he collects these poison berries, and then he just, for some reason, and then he starts shoving them into the blueberry pie in a way that they can't be. He's like trying to murder these people, and so it's pretty gnarly, and like the suicide, and then the attempted.
This is why I didn't think it was funny. I guess I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I get it, but I'm just telling you, it's a comical.
Okay.
You didn't.
I feel like I should go back and listen again.
Yeah, you could, or
not.
I mean, if you read the book,
you're like, yeah, maybe.
Oh no, I laughed out loud a couple times. I'm curious, did you laugh during the worm in Philly?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing.
So I think they both have a similar sense of humor, but
what I thought of without realizing that maybe this was your intent was that this was similar to Work by Dennis Johnson.
Oh yeah,
because we didn't talk about it, and I was like, oh, it's like Work. Like, there's some stuff where, in particular, the worm in Philly.
Yeah.
Which
this one's different because it's more upper class character.
It is, but it's also gritty.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of.
It's nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So anyway, and his brother MJ is like gives him a thumbs up when he puts the poison berries. So he's kind of saying that they're
the same,
similar.
Yeah, I thought they were the same.
Yeah,
and then different opportunities presented themselves.
Yeah,
one of them's become a total fuck up.
Yeah,
and
the other one's become a lawyer with a nice condo.
Right, and there's not much difference between them.
Yeah,
that's what I took.
Oh, and did we mention how he got the bottle of wine? It was
at the wedding.
It was a wedding present, but the last woman he slept with before his current wife,
the half Pakistani woman,
was the half Pakistani woman that liked poppers and farted in her sleep.
That's amazing.
But he slept with her while his best friend supposedly was away visiting home at college.
Right.
And so the bottle of wine was special to him because of that. So he's kind of a sadist, like
totally.
he's a horrible person, but anyway.
Him being a horrible person was a lot of fun.
I liked it, and so we get that, and so now he's pretending to be MJ's lover just to mess with Michelle, but Michelle isn't fazed at all.
And she says,
"Go ahead."
They're basically saying, like, I don't know if she says, "Well, it looks like he's not going to show up."
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
You know,
And she breaks out the crystal. She goes,
does.
well, we can tell him we couldn't wait any longer. He says, you snooze, you lose.
yeah.
And so they start,
As one says about crystal meth.
and they start smoking. And he goes, we had a lovely afternoon together.
Yeah.
He goes, and then
This was the line.
and then she took it off the windowsill, and it's
And what was it?
it was
weird.
a dildo.
Yes, but
So she grabs the dildo and she did everything she wanted. I let her do it, whatever she wanted with it.
I let her do whatever. Yeah, whatever to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He goes, and it wasn't painful or scary, but it was
disgusting. What a great line.
Just like I'd hoped it would be.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends.
That is how it ends.
Yeah. And how do you interpret that?
I don't. I think that I have something else in my head.
I think the guy wants to be punished because he knows that he's a piece of shit, and he wants to be humiliated.
Wow.
And he wants to be.
And he wants to be her.
He wants to be like his brother. He not idolizes, but envies his brother's kind of animalism and his just not caring about anything. And he feels kind of bestial. He's stooped down to his brother's level.
Yeah.
Smoking crystal
meth
and
with
then getting.
Yeah.
By the way, I taught this story in class.
Oh my.
A while ago. There's nothing explicit. It's
No.
all just. But I asked the students at the end, like, well, first we have to, just acknowledge what just like physically happened.
Yeah.
And I go, don't be shy. This is a college class, and
Oh no.
and then one student just raised her hand, a really timid woman that hardly talked in class, and she goes, pegging?
Oh, I think you told me this. Oh, that's amazing.
I wasn't expecting her to say that because
You're
I
like-
barely knew the terminology myself. Like,
You're like, maybe?
Yeah.
Let me go look it
I
up.
think that is it.
That
Yes,
is what it's
they-
called. Thank you. I don't know how you would know that.
They.
So-
Anyway, yeah.
So I am brought back to college in this last, and my God, that sounds terrifying to say, so I might want to explain myself. I was at a party. There was a young lady who was there, who was in my rhetoric class at the University of Iowa. And she and I had kind of maybe been a little flirty in class. We might have chatted. I saw her there, and
She was half Pakistani, right?
she was not.
Ah, too bad.
And I was kind of hanging out with her. This is back when I may or may not have smoked a lot of cigarettes. We're smoking cigarettes. We're hanging out. We're at and I am ready to see if she wants to go to after hours. And I was like, kind of just talking with her and her friends. She goes, by the way, are my eyes real dilated? I was like, no. Why? Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
perfect. And she goes,
Sorry.
well, because I'm tweaking right now. And I was like,
Tweaking.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, I did a couple lines of crystal meth before I came to the party.
Oh, that's what tweaking
And
is.
I was
yeah,
like,
I thought so.
I was like, I'll be right back. And now, mind you, I was allegedly smoking at least a pack a day of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And it was cold out, and I ran all the way home. I was terrified. I did not. And my friends later were like, what? No, that could have gotten crazy. I'm like, right, which part? Like, where I'm offered crystal meth, or where, which part gets crazy? I was like, no, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Well,
And
you're
so-
a good boy.
Well,
You
I
were
guess.
at least.
I ran. Yeah, I was. Yeah, exactly.
And
I
that's
ran.
where your running
I-
career started.
It did.
Running
I-
away from meth.
One day I just felt like running
You
away
could be
from
a
meth.
commercial for
Yeah.
don't do drugs, kid.
Yeah.
When somebody mentions meth,
I don't even
you run
remember
the
her
other way.
name. That's terrible. But
Meth
it's
head.
all right. Meth
Just
head.
call her. Yeah.
She's probably like a real estate
Tweaker.
lawyer
Tweaker.
today. I don't know. So
All right, let's.
but that's where I was at the end of the story. I'm like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is like,
Oh, it's,
how bad could things have gone for me?
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
book. It's called Homesick for Another World. And
Right.
it's full of this kind of stuff. These highly educated people from wealthy families.
Well, let's talk about the worm in Philly then. Because
And so we have a character here who is not from a privileged background, although his dad's a sports reporter, but he's a full-on heroin addict. It's very much like work. It's that world.
A little bit of train spotting in there.
Sure, they're doing tying off and shooting up. Is their buzz. But the real star of this one is Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Who was a real person? I did look it up.
Oh no, I knew who he was.
Oh, I did.
And
who changed his name because announcers wouldn't call him that.
Thank you.
Whoa, thanks. Uh-oh.
I think now we're in trouble.
We're going to be giving beer away.
I think we got the keg blew, so we got half.
I would have been happy with just that.
I know.
And there's for you people who are just listening or can't see it because it's hopefully off camera,
Don't
given
worry,
where the camera is. There is another full pitcher here. I will be calling an Uber to get home at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah. Or you could just minimize the time that you're on the road by driving very, very fast.
As fast as possible.
Yeah, it's just logical,
Or just sit here for as long as I can. That's going to be what is going to need to happen.
Yeah.
So
anyway, The Worm in Philly. It's a first-person narration like the other one. Marc Maron does the reading, narrates it, I guess, or
by
reads
Sam
it.
Lipsyte. Yeah.
And it's about this guy who's telling the story
he starts out with
how he wants to write. He gets this idea. He's a drug addict.
He's out of money, right?
He's out of money, and he has this. He wants to write a children's book on Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Yeah, because they need to know.
Yeah, because the kids need to know. And then he tells his buddies while they're all shooting up, and there's a new guy. There's a whole group of people, and there's a new guy who is John's cousin who went to divinity school.
Can I jump in?
Please do.
That he was beyond the. He's like, I was beyond the basically testing drugs out phase or the trying drugs phase. I was in the implementation phase.
Yeah, the way that he talks is just really, really funny.
There's some really good
He
ones.
had been experimenting
It was the
I was beyond
the experimentation phase
but
of drugs.
He was experimenting with two different, I forget what the first thing he said he was experimenting with. But then he said, I'd gone beyond the experimentation phase of drugs, and now I guess you'd call it the implementation phase.
Yeah.
And he's funny throughout, just the way he words things. So he's
other words that he used: narrative imperative.
Yeah, that was
Love
a good
that.
one. Yeah,
Love that.
So he's talking about writing this book, which actually sounds like a pretty good book.
I disagree.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
It sounds like a good book, but not for kids. I didn't see what it had to do with.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Okay. Let's just go through it chronologically.
Okay.
He finally decides to tell his friends while they're shooting up his idea, and he said that usually when you did that, there would just be silence,
right?
And then because we did not indulge each other's fantasies or something like that,
right.
And they all would have these silly fantasies of how they're going to make money. He thinks he's going to get the reason why he wants to do a children's book. Do you remember?
Because that's how you make money.
Well,
I
that was part of it, but the word count was a lot lower than.
Oh.
And so he would get the money faster.
That sounds like how I would do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And by the way, I was going to ask you, publishing a book, that's a really good way to make a lot of money, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe a children's book. Yeah, he's delusional, we get. But
and here you've written 2 books. What does that say about you?
His father says I haven't made much money on him, put it that way.
I love it, though.
His father is a sports reporter, sports reporter, writer.
Yeah.
And he goes, he said it's like being the son of a president. You think, if this jackass can do it, then I can.
Yeah.
And
if this fuck can do it,
then he uses that kind of language.
Yeah. We never do.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Never.
We avoid that. So he finally admits it to his friends, but the new guy who doesn't know their customs says, "Oh, I can help you." He goes, "I've never heard that." He said, "I've never heard that before."
John's cousin, right?
John's cousin.
Yeah.
He goes,
We don't know his name.
He goes, "My aunt or something, or his sister maybe."
My sister.
His sister's in publishing.
Right.
So he gives her the number, and in the meantime, he tries to sell his friend's Rickenbacker
12-string. Is that a real?
Yeah, 12-string Rickenbacker guitar.
Is a Rickenbacker a thing?
Oh yeah.
Is it? Okay. What do you suppose that sells for? Do you?
I wouldn't know. A 12-string Rickenbacker. It's an old brand.
Okay.
It's like, I think the bass player in Led Zeppelin used a Rickenbacker.
Okay.
It's like been around for a long time.
He's got a 12-string, and
so
he tries to go sell it because he steals it from one of his
roommate.
Yeah.
And then, but the place wouldn't take it because he doesn't have any paper ship owners. And he goes, "Does it
paper
tell
ship
me,
owners
does
or
the
ownership papers?
Ownership paper."
Too much beer.
And he says, "Tell me, is this policy the same in
all of the shops?
All of the guitar shops?" He goes, "They sure are, Chief." And so he like carries it all the way.
Yeah, he said it was the 12-string Rickenbacker was very heavy on the way to the place.
Yeah,
and
even heavier
on the way back.
So I think he said distressingly heavy or something.
Heavy.
He had such great lines, great voice, and he.
We should talk about the.
So he's basically ripping off his. Go ahead.
I thought the audio in this, the production audio, was even better.
Yeah.
There was one point I'm listening on my phone with my AirPods in, and there's one point that there was a sound that it sounded like there was a call being made.
Yeah.
And I checked my phone to see if I had accidentally bot dialed somebody.
But also he has dialogue where he's talking to his mother on the phone, his stepmother, and they made the dialogue sound like it was a phone.
Yeah, they did.
But also Marc Maron's voice kind of sounded like a woman's there, but without seeming like he's trying to sound.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah.
But he calls up his stepmom because he wants to get his dad's old magazines, sports magazines, so he could write the book on Marvelous.
The boxing magazine.
Yeah, and the mother is like immediately is like, what do you want to shoot him into your arm? Like she is just having none of it right from the moment. And then he talks to his dad.
And says sales call, basically.
Yeah, at first he's like, "Yeah, I banged her after that." It just nonsense, and he's demented essentially.
Yeah.
The mom says, "Oh, you mean you want to talk to your dad? Oh, he's a sports writer." He's like, "No, he's a carrot."
Right.
He's like a mixed vegetable medley.
Right. She does say that.
Yeah.
His stepmom.
Yeah.
Okay. As I nearly dropped that. Okay. So we get interrupted again in the story, and this is something that happens in the other one, right? Like where there's another narrative that jumps in, where they're. I think I might be too far ahead of where I really want to be.
Well, he talks about his dad. I think here's what's interesting. I just thought of this, but I think that there are two. In the first one, there are two flashbacks into his past with his brother. I think this one, there are two flashbacks into his past with his father.
Okay.
And the first, I think.
Yeah.
I know there's the one where the father, like, sort of the climax of the story in a way, or semi getting near it. His father tells him that he's leaving his mother. Right. And then he says, "Here, punch me in the face."
And what does he hit
he
instead?
punches the garage door, which is frozen, and he shatters his hand.
And before his dad tells him to do that, he's saying, "Well, you apologize for something you shouldn't have apologized for." And you said,
that was
sorry,
his first words were, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
His dad knocked over a wine glass.
Yeah.
And the little kid, he's like 3 years old, apologizes for it.
Right.
And so it's a really great little characterization.
It's a cute little story.
Yeah. And you can see what this guy's problem is, and then
he goes on the way to the hospital with his father after taking a swing and hitting the garage door instead. His father says, "Go on, hit me," and he swings and hits the garage door. And on the way to the hospital, he looks over and says, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And
he goes, he didn't get the joke.
He didn't get it.
And he goes,
I love that
maybe
he's telling a joke.
Yeah,
He's got a shattered hand.
Maybe he forgot the joke.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's commitment. That's callback right there.
Yeah.
That's
It is. And the dad was like, no good deed goes unpunished. After
True.
he wanted him to hit him but then later he finds out that the father had been asked. We're not telling the listeners what happened. His mother was dying of cancer or something, and the father left her.
I can't live with her anymore.
While she was sick. But it turns out she kicked him out, even though he said he would quit the affair.
And he never said.
But he didn't tell his
it.
son that. He wanted to take all the blame.
Right.
And so it makes you like the father a little more. So.
I know, I didn't like the father.
Well.
I liked our deadbeat. He was kind of fun. Because he shows up to another meeting to get his book published.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. We don't know his name. We don't know his name. So he goes and he meets the sister. He calls and she goes, "Oh, do you know? Oh, you're the friend of Leo." He's like, "Who's Leo?"
We always call him John's
Leo.
brother.
He goes, "We know him by a nickname." "Oh yeah, what's his nickname?" "John's cousin."
John's cousin. That's right, not brother.
She goes, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And so she meets him, and what do we learn?
Well, we learned that there is no interest in publishing the book that he's come up with, the children's book.
Wait, there's a hilarious line I want to talk about.
Great.
Well, he tells this whole thing about Marvelous, why it should be published, because boys, it's for boys, because boys...
Books are never for boys.
Books are never for boys.
Yeah.
And the books for girls are too, they're full of lies.
They
and
are.
The boys,
Fantasies.
And he goes, too many puppies and ponies and flowers.
Right.
Boys need to wear that we're just bags of meat.
Yeah.
And that we're all like, Bub, and it goes on.
It's amazing.
But earlier...
That part I was laughing out loud.
Oh, it was hilarious. Yeah. But there was a couple of other lines. One of them, when he was telling his friends about the book he wants to write, Marvis, I think John's cousin, goes, "Oh, what is... I know who that guy is. He's bald, right?" He's like, "Yeah, he was the first bald guy." And he goes, "The first?" He goes, "In the modern era."
It's true.
and
it was fun.
Yeah.
So they're trying to set up an intervention for John.
Yeah, and they're just trying to get to him through the narrator, and they... Yeah.
And is he interested?
Oh, no, he doesn't
Not
care.
at all. Does not give a
So
shit.
he goes back to the drug place, and they're shooting up, and he tells John's cousin,
Into
Leo...
the heroin den. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, "Hey, Leo, I met with your sister." He goes, "Oh, did she give you the book deal?" He goes, "No, she had other things on her mind." He goes,
"You're going to rehab."
Yeah, and he goes, "Yeah, the guys in the van are going to show up.
Yeah.
Guys in turtlenecks, they're going to grab you." And he's like, "You're going to rehab, champ." Something like that. And he goes, "Not again."
Yep.
And then John's
cousin was like...
But John said, "What about me?" He goes, "They didn't say anything about you. You're on your own."
Was it John that was on his own?
That was John. Leo is John's cousin.
Okay. All right.
So the cousin they didn't care about, but they...
No, of course not. Why would they?
And so...
You're on your own. He was like, "Damn it." Like he was... Yeah, all right. Okay.
And so he's not going to publish his book, and it turns out that Leo's going to get... They're going to grab him off the street at some point.
Right.
And bring him to rehab.
And so he's kind of beside himself. Well, no, he's not. He doesn't care. He's jonesing.
Oh, yeah, he just needs to get more drugs.
Right.
And they bust his place that he likes to go.
Yeah.
Which is called...
it's a fanny pack.
Fanny pack.
Yeah.
He likes fanny pack.
He does.
You get the drugs from some guy in a fanny with 2 fanny packs.
Right.
Leather fanny packs.
Right.
That place is nice.
And
but the place he doesn't want to go to is called Cups. Because it's a sort of a bad scene.
Right.
But there's no place open because they all got busted. So he goes to Cups, and right off the bat, somebody tells him to bring him some, like the lookout guy gives him money and goes, "Get me a bag."
Right.
And they lower the drugs on styrofoam cups on strings.
It's not a clever name.
No,
we're saying.
it's just that's how you do it.
Right.
And then there's like all kinds of sirens, and so they think it's a raid, and the cup falls down.
Cup falls, and the drugs go God knows where.
Yeah, and so he's on the ground, and he's looking for him, and there's glass broken on the floor. He gets glass in his hands, and he grabs something.
He thought it was the drugs.
Yeah, and then the lookout guy says, "Hey, where's my bag?"
Yeah. Give me
and
the drugs.
he opens his hand, and it's just a cigarette butt.
I hate it when that happens.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Happened to me last week.
Yeah, sure. You can easily make that mistake.
I mean, who doesn't? Yeah.
We all do.
Right.
We've all been there. So, yeah. And then he basically...
So the lookout guy then whips his ass, basically.
All the stuff about Marvelous Marvin Hagler, which one like fact he says...
He got beaten once.
Yeah, he got beaten once legitimately, and he got robbed at other times. But he also... Marvelous wasn't the name his mom gave him.
No.
But he legally added that to his name.
He did change his name. And he did.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He looked it up. He had to
to
go
the
to the
library.
library, and his first step into going to the library was he walked outside,
asked where the
library was. I love that.
He goes, they got this stuff called microfiche.
They got this thing, and I looked it up. Yeah. I looked it up, and he was like extra matter of fact that this was the story.
I thought his pitch for the book was great, personally. I thought, you
were making that book if you're a publisher? Yeah.
I think I would publish great books that didn't sell. That would be my niche. Because it would be a great book.
I would say no to everything. So I wouldn't be a publisher.
So
I'd be like, no, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
That can't be a book.
Yeah.
Especially not for kids.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense.
I want the kids to know that.
It was funny though.
Yeah.
Like
all the facts he had about
Marvin.
Yeah.
I think what I liked about this one, I think I like this one better. He treated the different sites, fanny pack, cups, there's a few others. It was as if they were convenience stores, right? Like there was a feeling that he couldn't believe that, somebody he knew had gotten pistol whipped at cups before, and how could that possibly happen? And I was like, wait, does he mean that this is like no, it's a drug spot, and he's buying heroin, and he can't believe that somebody got their ass kicked at, like where they're buying heroin. And I remember being like, okay, he's treating it like it's a normal transaction in his world. I thought that was pretty good.
I think it's good, and I also think it's probably real. My first apartment when I moved to San Francisco to go to college, I didn't go to the dorms. I decided to live in the city. Somebody gave me that advice, somebody that I met that was from there.
To go to Cups?
No, but I...
fanny pack.
I had this roommate situation, and one of our roommates ended up being a heroin addict, and then all of them were on heroin except me and one other roommate. I'm not going to even use first names.
Allegedly, Your Honor.
Yeah. But also the other people in that house are still around, and they don't want to. Yeah.
We can only hope, right?
No, I know, because there's Facebook and stuff. Except that I will say one thing is that the guy that died, the guy that was on heroin
alert.
died. Yeah, he committed suicide. Poor British Bob. Maybe that's an inappropriate use of that. He was a beautiful guy, too.
No, he deserves a ding.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
If you're that broken up.
He was smart. He was literally an orphan from London.
He was tortured, maybe.
I think he was living on the streets when he was 12, and I think he started doing drugs really early.
But for real though, hey, here's to British Bob. Here's
British Bob.
Yep. All right.
But continue. I know I was around people on heroin, and they would just nod out, and they just literally nod.
Yeah.
They just sit there kind of falling asleep and waking up, falling asleep and waking up.
You aware of Brittany Murphy, the actress, and she was on all these different basically medications and everything else, and they would say that her and her husband, who allegedly did that to her, he's also dead, that they would be in an interview and just like pass out.
Yeah.
And so it's not, and eventually you're sleeping more and more, and eventually you just don't wake up. So it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was gnarly. The ambulance was coming to our house every weekend, kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah, because
I like that I don't know this story.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's
But not
I
one
don't
you like to tell.
I think it's a wild story, and it's part of my. But I mostly don't mention it much, or I don't know. I haven't publicized it much in terms of my writing and stuff because of the people that were also in that house and that are still
bummer.
around. I don't want to implicate that. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm saying. But no, that was a wild year.
Wondering if that's what our narrator would say from
a wild year.
Maybe
he's better. So this is how it ends. What has become of him? The end of the story should give us some kind of hint of where we've landed. And he gets beat up, and so
he does.
He's writing about
get beat up. He gets his ass kicked.
He does, and he's the kind of guy, and that even when he's talking about the pitching the book to the so-called publishers. They say, you've never even been in a fight or something.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't
even know where to start.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And it was true, but he had the offer to punch his dad, but he hurt himself instead.
Right.
So he doesn't even fight back. This guy just starts pummeling him, and blood is falling off, and he finally ends up on the ground, and the guy says, "You had enough?"
And he thought to himself, no.
He says, "No, I lied."
Yeah.
That's the last line.
Yeah.
So he hadn't had enough. He's going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what's known as a circle of hell story.
You ever been in a fight?
Yeah.
How did that go? More than one?
Yes. But they were not as an adult.
Oh. I got
only in like 6th grade. I got in some fights. For some reason, everybody was like, it was just like a violent time, I guess.
I got a good trip to the emergency room when I was 23. Yeah. I was not in a fight. I got my ass kicked trying to break up a fight. You know what I had never tried to do since then?
No good deed, man. What?
Never tried to break up a fight since then.
No.
I see one and I'm like, that sucks. Well,
yeah.
They'll figure that out.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not.
No. It was New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can jump in and go, everybody, hey, chill.
Can't we all just get along?
And it did not go that way.
No.
Incidentally, no. There's still a scar right here.
Nice.
That I have over my left eyebrow.
Yeah. That's kind of good, though. You got.
As I get older, though, my eyebrows are getting longer, and so
it's covering it.
Cover it.
I see that. Yeah. So, that's a good fight story because you were being the good guy, and you sacrificed. You threw your body in between.
I was like, we'll be.
Yeah.
Look, everybody. No, we can just stop. And the ambulance showed up. That was great. That was amazing. Bleeding everywhere.
You were bleeding out of your eye.
My eyebrow.
Yeah, I see it.
Now you can see it.
It's hideous.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I know.
Luckily, you got married. It was dark. I imagine.
For a long time.
Yeah.
7 years.
before you turn the lights on.
Fuck. Yeah. Well, and then she's like, oh.
Yeah.
That. Oh, you.
Yeah. But then you're like, wow, but we're old now, so.
Right.
It's
good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
good luck finding somebody else.
Great strategy.
Good way to end this, too, I think.
Totally.
Liked these two a lot.
Yeah, I liked. I liked
the
them
first
both
one more seriously, I think.
I liked the Worm and Philly more this time, even though previously I kind of reacted more to the Dark and Winding Road.
And that's darker, I feel like. Yeah.
This one's pretty dark, though. I mean, it's
Indeed, it is.
Indeed, it is. But
you're getting this ready.
I'm gonna just kind of hit the music, and
I'm dying to know how long we went.
Thanks, everybody. 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a new record.
Yeah. So
maybe it feels like that for our listeners.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. If you're still here, you're a super fan. So leave us a review.
We will
and,
not finish this other pitcher of beer, though. I have no idea what we're going to do with
I'm
it.
going to put it in my pocket. And
Good idea.
Yeah. So, all right.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye. All right, we did it.